Hi everyone, thanks for coming. My name is Lazarus Vekiarides and I am the CTO and co-founder at Clear Sky Data, which is a data storage and networking startup in Boston, Massachusetts. I have a talk, it's kind of a thought piece here about the state of the data center world and what the cloud has done to that. And then as an added bonus at the end, we'll talk a little bit about our platform and how it fits into this new world. The traditional data center dilemma is, pretty much that, in most cases, folks buy equipment and then they store it or they run it out of their own, private data center premises, either in a private building or as the corporations get larger, you have these private buildings that are very, very large or dedicated data centers. This is actually a real estate management activity, and it becomes incredibly complex as growth becomes a problem. So you can't just acquire a new building anytime you want it, and you can't always free up space when you need it. So this is one of the many problems. Some of the other issues are things around data protection. So you have your own building. If you lose your building, you probably need a secondary building. And so you have a lot of issues with the planning of disaster recovery. And then finally, of course, the cloud is actually making things even more challenging for the traditional data center because it's a secure building, but extending it to another outside data center like the cloud can become a regulatory nightmare, if not a networking and security nightmare. So this is the world in which we sell, and so whenever I show people this slide, they kind of understand it. In general, in order to do data protection, most companies that we talk to at Clear Sky have at least a couple of sites, if not more. You have servers and compute sitting around with primary and secondary storage. You have an on-site backup. You have a secondary site with more secondary and primary storage and more servers. And then you also have an offsite backup, which it could be, in most cases, yet a third site. So you're basically building buildings and silos of storage where you house copies of your data in order to create resiliency. The big problem, as most of you know, is that today the bulk of the IT growth is happening in the public cloud. And so, if you look at the growth of infrastructure spend, it's predominantly focused on public cloud activities. And so the traditional data center and traditional data center footprints, they're growing at a relatively meager rate. So the heady days are gone. And in order to accommodate this growth, a different type of platform is going to be needed. The problem, of course, is that data and latency are a problem. So if you have a really, really large data footprint in a building, moving the data outside of that building so it can be accessible outside in a secondary building or even in the cloud is very, very difficult to do. You can't just move it without very, very high levels of connectivity, and even still, it takes a very, very long amount of time to actually realize any real data movement. You have user interface latency if you have apps in the cloud. You have storage latency if you try to access storage from remote locations like the cloud or other data centers. And then, of course, there's security issues everywhere. So it's not surprising that roughly only 18% of companies actually deliver workloads from the cloud today. It's actually a difficult endeavor because of these infrastructure issues. The new bottleneck, if you think about it, is distance. So we spend a lot of time in the industry. If you go into the solutions exchange, you'll hear everyone talking about latency and how wonderful NVMe flash is in reducing your latency to microseconds. But I'm going to tell you about a different kind of latency, and that's distance. Rack-to-rack latencies tend to be in the microsecond range. inside of the metro, when you have multiple buildings, you're talking, a few hundred microseconds to, a few milliseconds. And here at Clear Sky, we deal with that a lot. And then regional, when you're talking about cloud, you're talking some substantial latencies just from a private line standpoint. So going up and down the East Coast is 25 to 50 milliseconds. And so, all of that infrastructure it has to be planned very, very carefully if you're going to be dealing with these types of latencies. One of the problems that we have in the world today is that clouds are actually, by definition, mostly remote, unless some of you actually live in Virginia. I don't know if you do. You're lucky. You're geographically privileged. So you're within a millisecond or two of Amazon East. In Boston, we're with private lines, we're somewhere between 10 and 14 milliseconds away. There's a reason why clouds are where they are, and that is because power costs, cooling, land value, all of these sort of collude to make it very, very economical to build a data center. Usually it's in the middle of nowhere. It's usually where you're not. And because of that, you have some unique latency problems. And if you're going to leverage the cloud, the new tool is really carrier-neutral colocation facilities. So, colo, there are now several companies that are doing this. Colo facilities that are carrier-neutral have a huge amount of connectivity available to them across multiple vendors. And they're also doing something very unique in the sense that they're providing interconnect into clouds. So, when you look at the way the world is evolving, you have companies like Equinix and CoreSite who are here today. We have a number of other smaller colocation facility providers that are providing sort of this carrier-neutral infrastructure that allows your city to become sort of a cloud hub. And so when we talk about what the edge is, we at Clear Sky talk about it a lot. We are specifically referring to these facilities in all of these cities. The edge is usually within a millisecond or two of your end users. And so this is a unique location to put infrastructure. And even if all of the infrastructure of the world were to go into the cloud, you still would have stuff on the edge, because for the very reason that you yourselves live where you do, you have this latency problem and you need to solve it. So there will always be edge infrastructure, and we believe that it's a networking problem, and it's solved using these hubs. So what does an architecture look like? Well, so inside of most of the metro areas where we operate, there are numerous telcos that actually have built very, very thick fiber plants, and so it's possible to get private connectivity from any colo facility into any building relatively easily. So this isn't the internet. This is actually private connectivity. It's fiber, it's waves, it's Ethernet private line capabilities. And so you have very, very low latency going into any of these facilities. And so that's the edge. And there are a lot of use cases. When you talk about IoT, you hear people talking about all these devices trying to write data with very, very low latency in a locale. The necessary architecture is something like this, where you have an intermediary inside the metro area to actually reduce latency. Behind that, you can connect directly into the clouds with very, very high-speed connectivity, also through dedicated fiber. But what the world needs is architectures that actually can deal with the difference between the distance to the cloud and the distance to the user. So this is foundationally what Clear Sky does. And foundationally, when we think about what the world is going to look like in 5 years and 10 years, this is how all of the systems are likely to look like, as long as you believe that the cloud is going to be a factor. So what we've done at Clear Sky is to expose cloud resources at the metro edge. in the form of data storage and data management as if it were a SAN, essentially giving you all of the capabilities that you have inside the cloud in terms of economics, pay-as-you-go, and elasticity and scalability, with all the capabilities that you have inside your local area network and your local SAN networks. So performance, security, reliability, very, very high levels of IOPS. You know, the architecture for data management is very, very centralized when you have a cloud. And so when we think about all of the very, very data-heavy applications, usually things like security analytics, and Splunk analytics, those types of applications require a single data set that is mobile and accessible across multiple locations. So this is the kind of thing that we've done, you know, and you know what we're able to do is to leverage these colocation facilities to build points of presence where we have our infrastructure. And we can extend cloud storage infrastructure into on-prem facilities. So you can replace your SAN with something that you pay for just like the cloud, but has all the performance and capabilities of what your ordinary SAN would have without that footprint. DR, for example, becomes very, very easy in these scenarios. And mobility is very, very easy in these scenarios, going from one facility to another, or even going into the cloud. So, summary, you know, you can actually manage to eliminate latency problems in cloud-based infrastructure, and in general, what you need to do is to leverage colocation facilities, some high-speed networking that is dedicated in some of these facilities, and also next generation set of systems that can use this infrastructure. I think that's it.